It's often the case when analyzing data that you will use a data file that's already created. And in many instances, these data files, the variables are not labeled by their nominal characteristic. So in other words, you notice that in this column of gender, 2 is representing female and 1 is representing male. So there's many cases where you might import data and that data just has a numerical value, and you're going to have to name that data in Stata or any other program that you use. So for example, let's open up Stata. And what I'm going to do is, instead of entering data, I'm going to import a data set from Excel. It's actually the same data set that we used earlier, except that I have numerical values now instead of nominal or string values. And so we'll open this. Now remember, it's very important to click on this import first row as variables because we want our columns labeled. So then I'll go OK. And so you can see that I have the data is in Stata. But to see that data, I'm going to have to go to the data editor, and I'm going to have to either go to Browse, which just allows me to look at the data, so I can see that my data is imported. I can kind of check my variables and check the names. But if I want to change anything in the data that's imported, then I have to go to the edit mode. Okay. And so this will allow me to make changes in the data, and it will allow me to be in a window that allows me to then create value labels. And so the value labels that I'm going to create now are based on these value labels from the original data set. So to do that, if I start with class or the school size, I can go to Data, Variable Manager, and then you'll see this box, this dialog box comes up, and I'm going to pick class. And what I'm going to do is come down here to Manage, and then this is going to allow me to create labels for each level of school class. So I'm going to create the label, and I'm going to call it class, the same as the columns here. And for value 1, I'm going to give it a AA. And you can see where I'm getting my codes from. For value 2, I'm going to give it a, or assign it a A. Value 3, assign it a B. Value 4, assign it a C. And then I'm going to go OK. And so now I have a set of labels associated with school class. So I'm going to close that. Now to change these values in the spreadsheet, I need to come here and pick class and then apply. And see, now you'll see that my values have changed. So let's try this with gender. So now I choose gender, and then I go to Manage. Now I have to create a new label for gender. So I'm going to call it gender. And so 1 is going to be male, or I can write out male, or I can leave it as M. I'm going to write it out and add. And 2, female. Okay. And I've got to add. If you go OK before you add it, it will not save your coding that you created. And then I'm going to go OK. And so now you see I've got 1 for male and 2 for female. And then I'm going to close this. And then I'm going to go to Manage, and then I'm going to pick gender, and then I'm going to apply. And so now you notice that my 1s and 2s are labeled male or female. So I'm going to do this last one. And I'm going to go to Manage, and I'm going to create a label and call it meal status, same as the variable name. And then I'm going to use 1 for no. And again, I'm following this variable coding here. And then I'm going to add that. And I'm going to use 2. And I'm going to label that reduced. 3. And I'm going to label that free. And add it in OK. And then close. And now, let's look at our spreadsheet again. I'll move this out of the way, this paper. And so then I'm going to highlight meal status, and then I'm going to apply. And so now my 1s, 2s, and 3s are labeled as string variables, as descriptive values for my data. And so there may be a case or a time when you have to do that when using Stata.